So what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. And yeah, not originally a video I wanted to make because I wanted to prepare for JLPT, and of course I wanted to prepare the third video for system error. But yeah, there was something I wanted to discuss for quite some time. Something I also posted on Twat. It's a discussion about why young men don't read anymore, or at least less, but women and girls still do. Then you're wondering to yourself, hey AJ, what do you know about reading? You're a guy, you're only writing indie comics and scripts. That's true, but my inspiration has to come somewhere. And some of these inspirations also include novels. For example, things like Dune, for example, or the classics. Things like that. White roster, even a book like Lord of the Rings, or even could be a healing fiction novel like let's say the Magic of a Japanese Restaurant. It probably has an odd translation in English, but you get to the point. But there is a reason for this, not only because due to the exposure to technology, etc., yada yada, but it's also with the way fiction nowadays is. Once again, I'm not an expert on this subject, but I think I figured out a little thing about it. Then again, no expert opinion, of course. But before that, we're going into the video here, video fragment by John A. Douglas that got cited by some kind of American guy. There's a whole discussion going on that I'm not even going to get into because it's cringe, incredibly gay as well. But yeah, for those who don't know, he's also a writer, behind some fiction, Black Crown author. The author behind Black Crown in that case. But yeah, first we're getting into the video for the. And yeah, of course I'll make sure to properly cite it to avoid copyright reasons, etc. But after that I'll give my opinion about it. Let's get into it.
Well guys, we're back in Target. Just happened to be stopping by a little bit and came over here, looked again. It's back in the fantasy section. Over here you can see thrillers over there and romance over there. Now, look down here, it's like even the few male-oriented authors are just gone. It's nothing but feminine fiction. It's nothing but romantasy, and it bleeds into the thriller section so much. Now there's a little bit down here, some manga.
Wait a second, I need to turn my volume up. One sec.
That's kind of cast aside, and you can see Brando's latest thing is down there, but it, again, this reiterates the point that I made last year. It's nothing but chick lit. It's nothing but chick fiction. It's just romantasy. Hanging around and being labeled as the primary fantasy. There's nothing for guys to read. Nothing.
There's one opinion about that, but that brings me to the next point. It's not that I'm pretty sure not every. I'm not saying that every woman doesn't know how to write. Forget about that. There are plenty of women who write good books in that appeal to a certain target audiences. But the problem with why young boys, especially in schools, not just in the USA but in every country on earth, start reading less, is because, again, not an expert opinion, but there's still plenty of men who read. even young men, sometimes even boys, but there is a small percentage, and there's a reason why girls and even female authors are overrepresented in these types of fiction. Well, at least in the USA, from what I saw, it was a target. And I think Joan Jacobs kind of put it down perfectly in this article, even though there are some things that I don't 100% agree with that. And that's the following thing. Most fiction nowadays, I'm saying it for everyone, is often written by females or women for women, but not what's already discussing here in this article by Joan Jacobs. Funny because she has a Dutch last name. Is a lot of this fiction nowadays, it's often gravitates towards girls for girls, for women written by women for women. But there's not enough fiction by women for men, or men for men, or boys for boys. I'm not saying that every woman does know how to write male fiction. There are exceptions to the rule. They're incredibly rare. The other thing is they don't know why and what kind of genre appeals to that particular demographic. And here it says, boys read a lot less than girls because assigned reading is oriented towards girls' tastes, writes Tom Saruf, the Institute of Family Studies. Boys are more interested in things like war, comedy, sports, and science fiction, and more excited about informational text, which is true. While girls prefer overall, I'm not saying there are exceptions to that, prefer narratives and romances. And boys are far less likely to read books by female authors or with female protagonists, but girls are willing to read books written by men and with male protagonists. The latter is something I don't 100% agree with. Boys are willing to read about, let's say a female protagonist if she is, if she's written well developed. She could be, someone who could stand her ground. Could be a muscle mommy, giggity. As long as it's not let's say an overpowered, what you see in what you saw in fiction in 2016, some that they're still trying to push nowadays. She basically kicks everybody's ass without much effort, without a real roadblock in a way. And the other thing is it's kind of said here. There are also men who like narratives or romances, but they need to be let's say objectively, and not too much focus on let's say what happened in Arrow. For example, what happened in Arrow after the second season, that became a whole romance show. It is a turn off for a lot of men, about 99%. And they get enough exposed to non-fiction, writes Katja Sedgwick on American Mind. They need to read classic literature with male heroes. I absolutely agree with that. Or at least read about mythology, like for example the Greeks, Roman, Mesoamerican mythology, or could also be let's say Indonesian folklore, whatever. And and the other thing is, it's also in the public education system that teachers don't see it as their job to connect the next generation of Americans to their heritage, preferring to submerge students into a sea of forgettable contemporary titles, rather than explaining complicated language, showing their students how to love historic writing. And that's the following thing why American public education has gone downhill, because they want their kids, their boys, to embrace the future, forgetting the past because they think it's no longer relevant or it's problematic in some cases. Boys need more books with fiction, conflict, and even violence. Fewer books focus on feelings and relationships. That's true. Not saying that there are bad books in that category. Far from it. There are some really good ones, like the ones, like one I mentioned about healing fiction. But yeah, it attracts more of feelings and relationships often attracts more female audiences and or yeah. But there are, of course, there are exceptions to that rule. But there are also good ones where relationships is a focus, but it's part of a bigger thing. Like for example, with when we're talking about graphic novels. For example, Captain America. And those kinds of titles. But that's a different category, I digress. And I need to suggest teachers to read this overview of classic adventure novels, to create boy-friendly reading lists that celebrate masculinity rather than condemn it as toxic. Yeah, which is also not a problem. A lot of masculine behavior, like boys, they, of course, are exceptions to it, so especially in the artistic parts, they prefer to compete against each other because it elevates them to a higher level. A lot of things, of course. But it's kind of behavior that the normal masculine behavior. I'm not an expert on that either. Far from it. It serves a purpose. It serves some purpose that they're willing to compete to get better. And to see who. It creates healthy competition, healthy behavior, of course. But it doesn't lead to necessarily lead to toxic behavior. It is aggressive behavior. Cheating, passion, is something that could be controlled. Celebrating normal, healthy male behavior is something that should be celebrated if you're into real gender equality. That's what schools nowadays need to teach you. Not this half-baked heroes, that story that every man is, every behavior celebrating masculinity, like working out, taking care about your nutrition, etc., is seen as toxic. But that's my 2 cents of the story. They serve as graphic novels have become very popular for that reason. Manga, especially seinen, shonen, have become very popular to that. Because I can already look at the pictures, because they already do the work for them. It requires less unnecessary text. Practical information like you see in because once again, men and women, boys and girls, they think differently and they develop in different ways. Every individual develops in different ways to a certain point. The Great Battle for Boys, or Lord of the Flies, is the kind of history that boys are eager to read. And of course, as a kid, he found that more the Battle of Midway or D-Day found him more interesting than grim tales of teen angst, he writes. What's another problem? There's too many diverse, inclusive reading lists at public education that feature authors who might vary by race and gender, but overwhelmingly tend to write in introspective, therapeutic tales that read like an adaptation of especially heavy-handed after-school special. That's not a problem. They write. Those people often get an easy deal and write a certain story from there is like some sort of therapy. In a way, writing is a therapy for some people. Some emotions can be used in a good way. Some people use the emotions in a wrong way. Ask Tom King about that, for example, or someone else, or use it as a way to insert their things of their private life, their own ego into their works. That also happens. But that's why there needs to be more fiction, or at least a healthy balance with where there is fiction that's written or at least targeted for young boys or young men by men or young men. There needs to be more of that. Of course, I'm not saying that there aren't women who could write a really good woman for boys story, but in fiction or any other genre. But they are really rare. There are exceptions. There are rare gems in a coal mine. But yeah, that's my take on it. Long story short, it's often because love fiction is written by women for women, not women for men or men for men. Which explains, why I turn to audiobooks, graphic novels, manga, etc. So it just appeals to more, and that's something that modern writers, both from both sexes, could learn something from. But I'll link this to this article, the link to this article, and to Johnny Douglas, I'll probably butcher his name, to it. Of course, I don't agree with everything in this article, but like for example, there could be a badass female protagonist in it, and it would be a problem. There are some, for example, in games, for example, like Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. She's a good female protagonist, and a baby who could handle herself. But overall, the article is a must read, and it's written by a woman, but she addresses certain points that are relevant for both sexes. Let's just keep it like that. Anyways, I'm going to cook some food, so I hope you like my take on this. If you hate my take on this, you could roast me in the comment section down below. But there's some truth in it. There want manly courage, or at least a woman who is able to stand her ground without coming over like arrogant or a Mary Sue, or in the case of the boys, a Larry Stu. Some informational text is fine. But it needs to be more by boys for boys. More focus on that. With some exceptions of women for boys, that could also work. There are some exceptions in there, but less. Needs to be less focus on women for women. When you want to attract the young man, the teens, or the boys, and get more fiction into that classic literature or recent literature from man by man. There needs to be an equilibrium or balance. And the balance is now kind of non-existent. But that's it. Once again, I hope you liked it. If you like my take on this, if not, you can roast me. I will repeat myself. Hasta la próxima. Chicos, chicas. And like to say in Japanese, dewa mata ne.